Hi, Guy Moxey, Wolfspeed Power, and welcome to In the Studio. And the more observant of you will notice we are in the studio, but a different studio, because today we're in Denver with our friends at Arrow in their studio. And for this, I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Aiden Mitchell, who's the boss in these parts for supplier marketing and engineering services. Aiden, welcome to your studio.
Thank you, Guy. Good to always be downstairs here at Arrow.
Not a long commute, obviously.
No, easy commute today.
Well, welcome to In the Studio.
Great to be with you.
Aiden, thanks for your time, and it's going to be really interesting to discuss the perspective of Arrow and the channel around wide bandgap. You guys obviously are well known as a component supplier, but also the engineering services side of your role and Arrow's role is intriguing. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, you know, look, we've a fondness for growth around here.
Yes, that's true.
And then you combine that with any technology that's baked in an oven that's half the temperature of the sun, you got to be intrigued.
Yeah.
But we really look at this as being God. You got electrification of everything. You've got everything that's autonomous is going to be electric. And then you've got a green wave that's been going on for many years but continues to pick up motion. And they all benefit from silicon carbide.
Yes.
So we're naturally very interested. And then when you look at this technology, hey, it's complex, it's new. Companies are looking at how they're going to decipher their power strategies. They're looking at their battery requirements as a result, and that opens doors for engineering.
Yes.
It always does. But there's good synergies too. You know, you take a look at what's happening with, let's say, lines like NVIDIA, Qualcomm, and NXP, who are all at the intelligent edge around robotics, around autonomous machines. All of those are going to require silicon carbide for the motion, the power behind that motion. So it's good news for us, I think.
They provide the brains, we provide the muscle. You provide the service and fulfillment.
That's right.
So it's you know, it's a very good relationship, and it's interesting because you mentioned NVIDIA's and Qualcomm's. That's pretty complicated digital stuff.
It is.
And boil it down in silicon carbide, it's MOSFETs, it's diodes, it's modules, it's the nuts and bolts.
Yes.
But yes, it's a MOSFET, it's a four-legged terminal device. But the impact it has on that system is what really is the complicated stuff. It's just a switch, but the impact it has. And you at Arrow obviously hold a vast line card of suppliers, and we have to work with your gate drive suppliers, your controllers, your sensors, your passive PEMCOs. We need high-frequency inductors. So you come in and you really sort of bring the whole buffet to the party, as it were. Yeah,
we do.
And you know, you have the expertise across all of those cards, supported by the suppliers themselves.
Yeah.
And we find with certainly in power, and you have a lot of experience on the digital side as well, certainly with power in a newer technology, that the customer still wants a touch point. They still want a person at the end of a face, at the end of a phone, or you know, the end of an email, because even though it's just a MOSFET, they're having to redesign their circuit, and they want that sort of reassurance. They want, like, you know, they want a hug.
Yeah, look, relationships matter. I think, boy, if anything, the last 2 years have taught us that. Right, you come out of COVID, you get into the greatest demand we've ever seen in the industry.
Yes,
for sure, there's been shortages. But we really think a little bit more broadly about this now. If you look at what's happening in automotive, you look at industrial, you look at energy, hey, 2 or 3 things are going to come to the fore every time. Energy efficiency is important. If you can get technology that improves that efficiency while reducing the density that's needed in batteries, and be that for a car, well, you're going to get additional mileage, and we're all looking forward to that as we look at the EV wave that's coming. But then you also take a look at energy and solar. You see this move towards 1500 volt systems and what that means relative to what they're now doing relative to the back-end technology around that. It's a great opportunity for silicon carbide.
It is,
and
yeah.
it's going to be growth.
As our CEO said, and he said to you many times, this is a multi-decade opportunity, and right now it's all about on-vehicle, because of the significant impact that we have there. But you're right, you've got to charge that vehicle. So you've got to have the charging infrastructure, which today is not in place as it should be, and it's going to get better. But then you've got to generate the energy to go to those chargers to charge those batteries. And you know, none of us want to be seeing fossil fuel power stations any longer, of course. So solar, wind, and then energy storage around those, because yes, you can generate it, but then you've got to store it somewhere to make it more effective. You guys can touch all of that landscape along with us as well. We obviously focus on switching those volts and amps, but you touch the entire system.
Yeah, I think, you know, while you're going to be leading and winning in automotive, we often find we're leading and winning, yes, with you there, but also around it. I think when you look at both the storage opportunity, DC fast charging, from an engineering services standpoint, looking at charging infrastructure, the design, development, and integration of those systems with some great companies, that's been one of our fastest growing areas in engineering in the last year. So that's been very encouraging. And now we're able to work with companies, okay, we'll either do part or a big chunk of that design and development, we'll even do prototyping, but we're also helping those companies get ready to scale, and the build-outs are happening really fast.
And that's really interesting, because no one in this day and age is tripping over excess R&D engineers.
No.
Projects are flying in, and any support that a supplier or a channel partner can give to help that time to market, that time to R&D, I think is going to be critical. And again, with a newer technology, there's some humps to climb over, small ones, little speed bumps along the way, nothing that's going to stop anything. But any support that can be given to an end customer is going to help that cycle. And you're offering those engineering services, you're stacking up with power experts that really are coming out the chute with wide bandgap in mind. And this is just an incredible service that I see Arrow offering, certainly for our industry.
Well, we've put in a cohort of power specialists. I think we're up generally to about 60 or so advanced power specialists that we're deploying around the world. And they're really there to help the customers navigate both design, definition, recommendation of the technology. But then if they do need that support in development, well, hey, we're now up to about 4,000 engineers in the company, 3,000 designers and developers. We're really bringing some scale to what customers
Important word, scale.
It is.
It's a very important word, because we have this, automotive is very focused. You know, we know the customer base, they are well known, they're well looked after. But when you step to the industrial and energy side, you know, it's thousands upon thousands of customers that, you know, we need to be the advocates for Silicon Carbide. And how's Arrow sort of positioned? Because the face-to-face is still very much valid, but as we've known over the last couple of years, the broad digital outreach has been incredible. And we've got to reach these hundreds of thousands of accounts, ranging from southern New Zealand to the tip of Alaska. And you guys at Arrow have done some incredible .com outreach recently.
Well, education and awareness is important. I think, look, Silicon Carbide is still very nascent in industrial and where its opportunity is in drives and areas like that. So we've worked with Aspen Core. They're our media wing in the company. Yes, they've got a lot of editorial with EE Times and EDN that they drive all on their own. But we use a lot of that digital backbone together with Arrow.com to really get the message out. But then we supplement with seminars, webinars, get your ground game going. And then ultimately, when it gets deeper, hey, we will get right in with customers. We will do sessions in their facility, and we will come up with concepts that ultimately lead to engineering agreements and opportunities for Wolfspeed.
We've seen some great activity on the self-serve demand creation, which will take you so far. And, you know, spreading the wide bandgap Silicon Carbide love
Yep.
has been incredible. But then it always does take, quite often, that next step of a human interaction. And you mentioned it, 60-odd specialists moving into a few thousand FAE generalists. And it's wonderful to see. I was at a customer with yourselves not so long ago, and obviously I was talking about the specifics around the MOSFET in the switching circuit and the speed and frequencies and dV by dTs and all of that good stuff. And then it was like, well, okay, help me design the inductor around this high frequency. Yeah. And I'm like, well, we don't have inductors, but we can assist. But then your power specialist, straight in there, yeah, we carry these guys. We can help you design that inductor specifically optimized to this switching frequency. And the customer just sat back, and you could see the relief, not the relief, but the smile coming on their face to say, yeah, someone's there at every step of the way.
Well, there's big and small opportunities. You take a look at very traditional sectors like HVAC. And now you just take a look at the opportunity of putting in a silicon carbide diode, and you see 1 or 2% improvement in efficiency.
Easy as that.
Hey, that could be $90, $100 of savings in energy in every home throughout a year. So, those are things we're consulting with customers all the time. But you guys are very gracious too. I mean, we got to bring in, what was it, Guy? We had about 35, 40 CEOs, senior executives from our customers in your new...
At Mohawk Valley.
At your new fab in Mohawk Valley.
The first, the largest, the only fab, but I've got to get that in.
And it was great. I mean, that was right before your grand opening, and I think the interaction with your CTO, with Greg, the leadership, was really good. And I think it gives customers confidence that, the technology curve is certainly improving, but the capacity is coming in too.
And that's, as we sit right now, the market is challenged on supply. You see that across all your suppliers.
Yep.
That will change, but you're right. Scale. Scale is not just ability to support on the design. It's not just ability to service a quality issue. Right now, capacity. And you're seeing the adoption of silicon carbide across, you've mentioned 5 or 6 different end systems already, segments already. It's only going to get more and more. And thank you for recognizing, that was a big step for us 4 years ago to put our best foot forward ahead of the curve, and I wish it would have been sooner.
Well, you're investing aggressively.
Yes.
I think, the players in advanced power are, and you guys are certainly investing to succeed and win. But that event was important because when you look at some of the high growth, we know automotive is paying a lot of bills right now, but that allowed us to bring customers from industry, energy, but then a lot of these new sectors, we had vertical takeoff and landing aircraft companies there. We had autonomous vehicles there. We had guys who were building autonomous machines for agriculture there. That's what we really get a kick out. The amount of new applications coming up in this space, great. So that was really good, I think, for them to know, automotive's a driver, but the capacity investments are there for the long tail of applications.
The e-mobility of everything. And let's not forget the classic industrial applications, things like welding machines and industrial motor drives. You mentioned HVAC, that's a drive in a system, but these have been the bastion of silicon for 20, 30 years. And silicon's done a solid job. But, we are seeing, thankfully, as custodians of our planet, efficiency standards getting tighter, regulations coming in. First time I can actually say regulations and standards are my friend, as much as they're not exactly a riveting read to look through. But when you distill it down, it's all pushing for, you said it, energy efficiency, power density. And this is where silicon carbide is really just streets ahead of what silicon can do. You can chuck more IGBTs and MOSFETs at it, but even that gets to a point of diminishing returns because it just doesn't get that much more efficient, and it just grows and grows in size.
Look, we're only at the start of the curve. And I think, look, we've got opportunities coming up through the balance of this year to engage with customers, and I think every quarter we see a new application, a new implementation that just really surprises us. But for the near term, hey, that growth in energy storage, that growth in solar, that growth in motors and drives, we're just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, the arrow slogan, 5 years out.
Yes.
Silicon Carbide is embraced today, and we're saying over the next, let's talk about your 5 years out time frame, 2022 to 2027. This next 5 years is going to be absolutely pivotal for our industry.
Yeah.
Not just, from a digital intelligence point of view behind all this, but yeah, even back down to those nuts and bolts. It's going to be an incredible 5 years ahead.
Yeah. And look, we're taking a very determined vertical approach around this. If you take a look at eInfochips, which is our design wing of the company, they've created now a portfolio of services and solutions for EV infrastructure and for energy storage. And they're going through a recipe of both hardware, mechanical, and software development with some IP accelerators in that space.
Yeah.
And that's giving us, another path to market to engage with customers who are really coming at this around, I got to get the design done, I've got to get to market fast, I need to supplement. Even in areas, if they're concentrating on critical power IP they have, okay, they need us to do more in firmware, software integration, test automation, controls in the environment, and I think that's going to be a good additional wing for our efforts as we go forward.
Well, yeah, value add. I mean, you and I are in our late 20s, and we can just about remember when we came out of school, the old way to go to market was really, here's our line card. Do you want some samples?
That's right.
How things have moved on, and they've had to.
They really have.
Then. And 5 years out, huge amounts going to change. It's going to continue. 10 years out, 15 years out, 20 years out. We're still going to be having, if we're still around, late 20s now, could be early, our late 30s, late 40s.
We've got a long road ahead, is what you're saying.
Our whippersnappers as we are.
Yeah.
We're going to be having these conversations over the years, and the end systems are going to come, they're going to be embraced, but the adoption is still going to be driving again and again and again.
Yeah.
I'm excited when we start getting into the sort of the mid-voltage grid type stuff, like 10 kV and thousands of amps. That's exciting in a scary way.
It is.
And that's going to need some lab infrastructure as well.
Look, I think we're seeing how fast this is growing. And the nice thing about the pace is it brings a different set of conversations. Look, we're not just selling at engineering. This is so important for customers. You get C-suite access quickly. They want to come and spend time with you and your leadership. They want to understand the technology. They want to understand the capacity. And then that co-development eagerness is there. So I think as we get together through what we're going to be showcasing around electronica, PCIM, every time we do these shows, we're just seeing waves and waves of interaction. So it gives you a lot of energy. I mean, it really does.
It absolutely does. And, I've said it before in many interviews, power electronics is actually now sexy.
It is.
Which is not something I would traditionally say, but it's nice. It's a nice place to be.
And it speaks to talent. I think when you look at power, let's face it, I don't think there's enough to go around. You and I have talked about, when you really look at great power engineers, how many of them that really are left in industry.
Yeah.
We've kind of got through a lull that's now ramping up fast. So I think we're both spending a lot of time with certain universities, building a pipeline of talent to come through. It's certainly an area we're investing in talent. And by the way, if there's anybody really looking at this show that needs a job in power right now, please.
Wolfspeed, Arrow,
or Arrow and Wolfspeed. I'm not sure which comes first, but
it is. It's hard to find the talent quickly enough to match the expansion. There's some great courses coming out back now in university. Back in our age, it went very digital, very DSP, software driven. The nuts and bolts were kind of pushed aside somewhat. And with the electrification of everything, there's some great courses. It's great to see some new talent, youth coming into the industry. It's not bids and Birkenstocks anymore. It is a little bit more upbeat. It's a bit more fashionable, and it's just going to be an incredible next 5 years. we are really looking forward to continuing our very strong relationship, because the world is out there, the world wants silicon carbide, and you know, you and I are a fundamental part of it.
So, you know, if you take a look at what we were talking a little bit about it earlier, where we see this digital wave coming, it complements what's going on in the power wave, just to, you know, punctuate how much development is going on. In the last 2 years alone, we've had over 500,000 design and evaluation systems go out.
500,000?
Just 500,000.
Wow.
Around AI, autonomous machines, robotics. And all of those are going to be running on electric systems.
Yep.
So that kind of tells us, boy, we've now got a big opportunity to really make the education, design, development around those motion systems that are running on a silicon carbide environment easier to adopt. So yeah, I think when we look at how we're making the connections here, the 1 + 1 is way greater than 2. So it's going to be fun.
It is education and enablement, and it's a great perspective because you can obviously give us a reflection of a lot of stuff upstream as well.
Yeah.
You know, we're focused around our volts and amps, but you're only as good as the entire system. Aiden, 2 industry leaders sitting together. It's a rare opportunity, and it's a pleasure for me to get the perspective on your side of life, because it's, you know, we're focused on our volts and amps on the board, and you have a much bigger picture. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be in your studio.
Thank you.
And with you. So yeah, thanks for joining us.
Look, we're in it together. We're delighted to work and support Wolfspeed, and thanks so much for coming here. You made it really easy, so great.
No, it's a nice place to visit. So, and thanks for joining us in the studio, and check us out on wolfspeed.com.